Obruman Kuma FM, and Cape FM. In the northern region, we are live on Mind FM, Amana FM, Justice FM, Radio Tamale, Kesmi FM, Simli Radio, Asase FM, and Surupeli FM. The Bono East region, we are live on Makina Radio, Winners FM, Fabia FM, Atubu FM, Alive FM, and Jima FM. Finally, in the Upper East region, we are live on Word FM, Zeps FM, and Source FM. We acknowledge all these stations who are streaming this press conference live, and we really appreciate the assistance. On social media, you can follow us on the official NDC Ghana and NDC Communication Bureau pages on Twitter and YouTube. We are live also on Graphic Online's page on Facebook and Radio Go's page on Facebook. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the media. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the national headquarters of the NDC for the 10th edition of our weekly press briefing. Our strive to deepen democracy and accountability cannot bear any fruits without your esteemed platforms. And that is why we will continue to cherish our partnership with you. Today's briefing is part 2 of the Corruption Tracker series we launched a couple of weeks ago. You would recall that on the 8th of June 2020, we launched a corruption tracker initiative to track the status of the numerous corruption scandals that Ghanaians have witnessed and continue to witness under the Akufo-Addo government. Scandals which have occasioned huge financial losses to the state and robbed Ghanaians of the comforts they were promised in the run-up to the 2016 general elections. As I indicated that day, the NDC is deeply worried about the fact that resources which otherwise would have gone into developmental projects in order to uplift the poor are sadly going to line the pockets of greedy officials of the Akufo-Addo government. Indeed, the structural violence that corruption continues to wreak on our people cannot be underestimated, as corruption deprives the vast majority of our people an opportunity to a decent living. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why we have decided to embark on the Corruption Tracker initiative to expose to the Ghanaian people the extent to which President Akufo-Addo and his corrupt appointees are milking the state coffers dry through grafts and sleaze. During our maiden press conference on this series, we spoke about the Bossgate corruption scandal, in which 5 million liters of contaminated fuel was sold by Gov't to some unlicensed businesses in the year 2017 in clear violation of the MPA Act, the Public Procurement Law, under the watch of President Akufo-Addo. Also at that press conference, We condemned the fact that the proceeds of that unlawful transaction had not been paid into the state coffers by the beneficiary businesses, Ovimpina Energy and Zouk Oil. Ladies and gentlemen, against all hope, we had hoped that for once, President Akufo-Addo was going to act on the issues we raised by ensuring that the perpetrators of that daylight heist are prosecuted, or in the very least, ensure that the proceeds from the unlawful transaction were paid into the state coffers for the benefit of all Ghanaians. Unsurprisingly, and very characteristic of President Akufo-Addo, he has once again failed to uphold the national interest, such that as we speak, the proceeds of that illegal transaction have still not been paid into the state coffers. And the perpetrators of this naked thievery are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men, enjoying their loot, as the vast majority of Ghanaians continue to suffer. But despite the refusal of President Akufo-Addo to change his corruption clearing agent ways, duty calls on us as a responsible opposition to continue our corruption tracker series in order to shed light on the corrupt activities of this government and the extent of damage it is inflicting on the already constrained public purse and all sectors of the nation, so that Ghanaians can make an informed choice at the upcoming December polls. Today's corruption tracker series, Presser, will focus on one of the biggest scams ever perpetrated by any government against the Ghanaian people in the history of Ghana. I am talking about the gargantuan and stinking PDS corruption scandal that most of you are very familiar with. Given the possibility that some of you may have forgotten the facts of this matter, I wish to start by way of a brief recap of the sordid events that led to the PDS scam. Distinguished friends from the media, you may recall that the Akufo-Addo government sometime in July 2019 informed the Ghanaian public that it has suspended the ECG concession agreement with Power Distribution Services PDS Ghana over what they describe as, quote, material and fundamental breaches, unquote, relative to the demand guarantee provided by PDS to ECG. You may also recall that the Energy Minister, Honorable John Peter Amewu, and his deputies subsequently followed up and described the entire ECG PDS concession agreement as fraudulent. The key facts and events that led to this situation are as follows. Number one, the PDS concession agreement was the product of the American government's Compact 2, also known as the Power Compact, with the government of Ghana, which required that Ghana introduces private sector participation into ECG's retail business with the aim of improving the power distribution sector of the country. The Power Compact is a result of Ghana's successful implementation of Compact 1, a $547 million deal, which the Kufuor and Mills administrations between 2007 and 2012 used to undertake agricultural reforms and major infrastructural projects, such as the N1 highway project in Accra. The PSP concession agreement, approved by the Parliament of Ghana, contained 45 conditions precedent, which had to be fulfilled by PDS before they took over the 20 billion assets of ECG. under condition precedent 24 and 31, PDS was required to provide ECG a payment security in the form of a letter of credit or demand guarantee with a value of $350 million from a bank. The purpose of this payment security was to safeguard the assets of ECG so that in case of default by PDS, Ghana, through ECG, could fall on sin to recover our losses. This precondition of a demand guarantee from a bank was therefore critical to the protection of the assets of ECG and the interests of Ghana under the ECG-PDS concession agreement. Contrary to the effort of Ghana's parliament to protect the public purse, and in order to safeguard our interest in the concession, the Akufo-Addo government shamefully conspired to bend the rules for PDS by changing the key requirement of a bank guarantee to a less liquid instrument, an insurance guarantee, thereby jeopardizing the assets, the over 20 billion cedis assets, worth of assets of ECG. Ladies and gentlemen, this infamous and nation-wrecking decision was taken by high-ranking government officials, including the Vice President of the Republic, Gov't, represented President Akufo-Addo at a meeting at the Jubilee House on 19th February 2019. Pursuant to these scandalous amendments by the Vice President Dr. Bawumia, the Finance Minister, cousin to President Akufo-Addo, Ken Ofori-Atta, and the Esum Benjamin-led MIDA, PDS subsequently provided an insurance guarantee with dubious validity to ECG, as same was ascribed as fraudulent by Gov't, a Qatar-based reinsurance company, which purportedly issued the said insurance guarantee. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the FTI investigative report on this matter, which was commissioned by MIDA at the instance of the US government, crucial advice from Ghana's own financial advisors on this transaction for the necessary due diligence to be done before the said insurance guarantee was accepted by the Ministry of Finance and ECG, and the assets of ECG handed over to PDS was ignored. In short, the over 20 billion assets of ECG were handed over to a fraudulent company called PDS by the Akufo-Addo government on 1st of March 2019 on the basis of a fraudulent insurance guarantee. It is worthy of note that under the guise of promoting local content, 51% of the shares in this fraudulent company PDS were allotted to companies belonging to friends and cronies of President Akufo under very shady circumstances in furtherance of his state capture agenda. As was found by the FTI investigative report, these local companies have no technical capacity in power retail and did not demonstrate any financial capacity to manage a critical national asset, such as the 20 billion worth of assets of ECG. Indeed, the FTI report found that PDS could not even raise the needed funds from equity contributions of its shareholders to pay the so-called insurance guarantee it claims to have secured from our Gov't, such that out of the $12.25 million that was charged by Carback to PDS as fees for raising the fraudulent guarantee, only $1 million, equivalent to 8% of the amount, was funded by an equity contribution from a PDS shareholder, Philip Ayunsu of TG Energy Solutions. $7 million of that amount, constituting 57%, was funded by a loan that was advanced by Car Bank to another PDS shareholder, Santa Baron Ventures. However, this loan was repaid from operating cash flows, that is, electricity bills collected by PDS after the transfer date from you and I. The balance of $4.25 million was also paid directly from operating cash flows generated by PDS after the transfer date. In other words, what I mean by operating cash flows is the electricity bills electricity consumers paid to PDS within the period that the concession agreement was in force. And all these damning findings are contained in the FTI report commissioned by NIDA under the instance of the US government. Subsequent attempts by the finance minister, a cousin to President Akufo-Addo, Ken Ofori-Atta, to restructure the shareholding of PDS after the deal was sealed, with the aim of diluting and appropriating the shares of the original shareholders for other cronies of the president, is what lit the spark for the whole PDS inferno. As some of you may recall, the original Ghanaian shareholders rebelled and refused to participate in this charade. It is this defiance that outraged the Akufo-Addo faction and occasioned the suspension and subsequent termination of the PDS concession agreement. It is instructive to note that, ladies and gentlemen, this fraudulent entity called PDS collected a total of over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis in the form of electricity tariffs from electricity consumers from 1st March 2019 to 18th October 2019, when the concession agreement was in force. As a matter of fact, it was part of these ventures, as I've already indicated. That is about $11.25 million that PDS used to finance the insurance guarantee from the Qatar-based reinsurance firm, Gov't, which was later found to be fraudulent and invalid. Finally, in recapping the key facts that led to the PDS scam, ladies and gentlemen, the cancellation of the PDS concession agreement by the Akufo-Addo government, in the manner it happened, occasioned the abrupt termination of the whole MCC Ghana Power compact by the US government. Consequently, the US government withdrew the second tranche amount of $190 million, equivalent to 10 billion Ghana cedis they had allotted to Ghana for the improvement of the power sector of the country under the power compact. Overall, Ghana lost about $1.8 billion as a result of the greed and avarice of President Akufo-Addo and his corrupt family and friends cabal, who sought to appropriate the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG for themselves. And when I talk about total financial loss of $1.8 billion, talking about, first of all, the $190 million the US government withdrew. That is the second tranche of $190 million they withdrew because of how poorly we manage the power compact. Two, I'm referring to the $500 million budgetary support the US government had committed to advance to the government of Ghana, which was also withdrawn as a result of this scandal. I'm also referring to the $400 million Ghana lost under the regional compact, because subsequent to the power compact, we were to benefit from the regional compact, under which the US government was prepared to give us $400 million for other developmental projects. We lost all these huge sums of money and many more as a result of the greed of President Akufo-Addo and his family and friends cabal, who were determined to appropriate the assets of ECG at all cost. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, these are the sordid and sad events that occasioned the PDS corruption scandal. However, the real tragedy of this scandal is summed up by these nagging questions which are begging for answers. And I wish, through you, the media, who are the fourth state of the realm, that government will provide answers to these nagging questions. Number one, since the Minister for Energy, Honorable John Peter Miwo, told Ghanaians that the insurance guarantee PDS presented for the takeover of the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG was fraudulent, a fact corroborated by our court, a Qatar-based company which allegedly issued the said guarantee. Who were those who perpetrated this fraud against Ghanaians? And what actions has President Akufo-Addo taken to ensure that they answer for this fraud? Who are those? Peter Miwo says that the transaction was fraudulent. The insurance guarantee which was presented to government for the takeover of the assets of ECG was fraudulent, on the basis of which the concession agreement was terminated. And who are those who perpetrated this fraud? And what has President Akufo-Addo done to them? Because we know that fraud is a crime under our laws and punishable through criminal prosecutions and convictions thereof. Number two, who are the state actors who neglected to perform their fiduciary responsibility to the state by failing to conduct the necessary due diligence on the insurance guarantee presented by PDS? And what action has President Akufo-Addo taken against them as we speak? Number three, can the Akufo-Addo government tell Ghanaians the total amount of monies PDS collected from electricity consumers in the form of electricity bills from the 1st of March 2019 to the 18th of October 2019, when the concession agreement was still in force? Per our estimation and from our checks, over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis was collected by PDS. But we have not heard any official communication from the Akufo-Addo government or from President Akufo-Addo himself, who touts himself as a paragon of transparency and accountability on this matter. Ghanaians and electricity consumers in general deserve to know the amount of monies we paid to that fraudulent entity called PDS. The fourth question we would want to ask is, have those monies been accounted for? And if yes, have same been audited? 5, if PDS has accounted for those funds collected, we know they have not, but if they have accounted for those funds collected, the same has been audited, then can President Akufo-Addo and his government publish those accounts for the benefit of you, the media, who are the fourth estate of the realm, and the entire Ghanaian people? Ladies and gentlemen of the media, what we know is that as we speak, the perpetrators of the PDS scam are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men, despite the fact that government itself described the transaction as fraudulent. No arrests nor prosecutions have taken place till date. the likes of Vice President Dr. Bawumia, the Finance Minister Ken Uforiata, and the Eson Benjamin-led media who aided, abetted, and facilitated this scam on the people of Ghana, which has occasioned a huge financial loss to the state, have not been held to account for the roles they individually or jointly played in this scam. Also, cronies of President Akufo-Addo, such as Mr. Philip Ayensu, the Baba, I'm sure you remember him, an appointee of President Akufo-Addo on the NCA board, who was the chairman of PDS, and the other directors of the local partners in the company, who perpetrated what government itself alleges to be fraud on the people of Ghana, have all been left off the hook. Even more bizarre and scandalous, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that till date, PDS, a company made up of friends and cronies of President Akufo-Addo, were gifted the 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG on the basis of a fraudulent insurance guarantee, and operators saying for more than 7 months have not been able to account for the over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis they collected from electricity consumers in this country. Also, all calls for the accounts of PDS to be audited by an independent and internationally reputable audit firm have been ignored by President Akufo-Addo. And so, as we speak today, Ghanaians, and I'm sure even you in the media, do not even know how much was collected by PDS from electricity consumers within the duration of the concession, and whether those funds have been properly accounted for and audited. Friends from the media, it is these plain acts of thievery and corruption that has entrenched President Akufo-Addo as the chief corruption clearing agent. It is glaringly clear that President Akufo-Addo has no intention to pursue the prosecution of persons responsible for the PDS scam and the recovery of the billions of Ghana cedis he collected from electricity consumers. We in the NDC are not in the least surprised at the nonchalant posture of President Akufo-Addo on this matter. We have always known that President Akufo-Addo can neither be trusted, punish the perpetrators, nor ensure that the monies collected by PDS are refunded to the state, because he and his corrupt government are complicit and neck deep in this scam. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, never in the history of Ghana have we seen this level of corruption and naked thievery like we are witnessing under the reign of President Akufo-Addo today. Despite promising to protect the public purse, President Akufo-Addo has supervised the biggest rape of the public purse in Ghana's history. This has led to a situation where millions of money which should have gone into the provision of schools, hospitals, roads, potable drinking water, jobs, and other critical investments in the productive sectors of the economy for the benefit of all Ghanaians have been diverted into the pockets and bank accounts of a few selfish officials of the Akufo-Addo government, while the masses continue to suffer. Friends from the media, these acts of naked robbery and the cover-up of same by President Akufo-Addo as pertains to the PDS scam is what has entrenched President Akufo-Addo as a chief clearing agent of corruption, which shields his corrupt appointees from punishment. This is why we have always maintained that President Akufo-Addo is the biggest enabler and promoter of corruption in his government. Today, the incorruptibility tag he was clothed with by his party communicators and some elements in the media prior to the 2016 general elections has turned out to be a ruse which was presented to Ghanaians for their votes and nothing more. Ghanaians should not and will never forgive President Akufo-Addo for supervising this stinking PDS scam, which has caused the nation huge financial loss of over $1.8 billion, and the numerous corruption scandals, the other numerous corruption scandals that has engulfed this government in the last 3.5 years. We, in the NDC, call on the good people of Ghana to kick out the corrupt Akufo-Addo government regime and vote for the John and Jane ticket come 7 December 2020. This country needs leaders who are honest and incorruptible. Those are none other than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his running mate, Professor Nana Jane Achema, who have dedicated themselves to serving this country with honor and integrity in all the positions they have served in. They have individually served. As President Mahama has already announced, when he is given the opportunity to serve this country again on 7 January 2021, inshallah, he shall wage a ruthless war against corruption in all sectors of our nation through an anti-corruption crusade dubbed Operation Sting. Ghanaians can be rest assured that under the Operation Sting crusade, the next NDC Mahama government shall ensure that all monies, here I'm referring to the over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis revenue PDS collected from the people of this country, President Mahama will ensure that all these monies collected by PDS from electricity consumers are properly accounted for and ensure the retrieval of any amounts misappropriated by the company, their promoters and accomplices for the state. Also, the next NDC Mahama administration shall ensure the arrest and criminal prosecution of all persons who directly or indirectly played roles in this stinging PDS scandal and the other several corruption scandals we have witnessed under the watch of President Akufo-Addo in the last 3.5 years. As President Mahama has demonstrated, or as President Mahama demonstrated between 2012 and 2016, when he ensured the prosecution of his own appointees and party members in the youth, and no acts of corruption in any form, whether by Mahama appointees or political opponents, will go unpunished. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the only way we can succeed in the fight against corruption. This is the only way we can save Ghana of the millions of monies that government appointees often steal from the people to enrich themselves. And this is the only way Ghana can stamp out the canker of corruption, which undoubtedly has been the bane of the country's development for so many years. Above all, ladies and gentlemen of the media, President Mahama shall ensure the judicious utilization of state resources for the development of the country through far-reaching policies such as the Agenda 1 Million Jobs policy, the free primary health care program, which is the Big Push policy, which will inject an amount of $10 billion into infrastructural projects to dualize key roads, complete the remainder of the 200 community-day senior high schools, finish all abandoned hospital and road projects, among others, for the benefit of all Ghanaians and not a select few. Thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. At this stage, we shall open the floor for questions. If you have questions, before I do a quick summary in the account language, if you have questions, kindly raise up your hand. And is that microphone working? Okay, so we'll bring the microphone to you so that you can ask your question. I can see a hand here. You mention your name, your media house, and you ask your question. No, good.
Yes, good morning. My name is Gov't, TV Africa. I want to find out from you, 2020, December 7, 2020 is not a settled. There is no absolute guarantee that the NDC may annex far and form the next government. So if President Obama says that he will tackle corruption from that point, it is actually a probability because he will not do. So in the event that the NDC does not go far, how then is it going to ensure that all of these incidences of corruption are decisively dealt with? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other question? I can see a hand. Any other question? Yes, I can see a hand there. If you can give me the microphone. Please, can you come to the front and ask your question?
My name is Sketchy for Class Media. I want to know something. When you were speaking, you made mention about some of these allegations and corrupt practices by the government, citing the PDS scandal. And you also stated that Ghanaians should work hard and vote so that the next Mahama administration can come to power in the ballot box. Now, we want to find out if the NBC can do something different throughout it, even before they come to power. Can there be any legal actions? And then, with that, they will be able to prosecute some of these offenders. That's what I want to know.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
My name is JoyNews. Yesterday, His Excellency, former President John spoke in our meeting. He said that our own people in the NBC are saying that if we gain power again, we will track all these people down and prosecute them. But that's when he said that if that cycle goes on, then it means that the country does not have any future. And so the next Mahama administration will do away with political victims. But you've been talking about tracking down all people that you got corrupt in the NPP government and prosecute them in the next Mahama administration. How do you reconcile what Executive President said yesterday and what you said?
All right, thank you very much. Any other question? Okay, I think that should be all. So I will quickly answer the questions and then I will crave your indulgence to remain calm as I do a quick summary of the presentation I just did in the account language for purposes of the account stations here. The first question was that 2020 is not a certainty, it's a probability. And so if we say that we are waiting to win power before we prosecute these people, what can we do whilst we are in opposition? My brother, what I can tell you is that the NDC's victory in the upcoming 2020 general elections, by the grace of God and in all humility, is a certainty. All across the country today, there is a palpable wind of change blowing because Ghanaians are crying for rescuing. Ghanaians are yearning for the return of John Dramani Mahama to continue his good works. Ghanaians are tired of the failed promises of this government. Ghanaians are tired of the hardships we are witnessing under this government. Ghanaians are tired of the vindictive collapse of businesses and jobs under this government. Ghanaians are tired with the unprecedented levels of corruption and nepotism we have witnessed in the last 3.5 years. Ghanaians are tired with alarming levels of unemployment and the decline of all sectors of the economy President Akufo-Addo has supervised in the last 3.5 years. They are clamoring for leaders who are sensitive to their plight, leaders who have the right vision and the right solutions for the hydra-headed challenges confronting the nation. They are looking for leaders who are humble, honest, leaders who can be trusted, and leaders who serve the people with humility, honor, and character. And like I said, that is none other than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his able running mate, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. And so we know in our heart of hearts, without a shadow of doubt, and I know you know too, that the victory of the NDC is coming again. So it is a certainty. But you see, what we must understand is that the scandals I've spoken about, for example, the Bosgate scandal we addressed at the maiden edition of this Corruption Tracker series, and the one we just addressed today, the PDS scandal, are criminal offenses and under the Criminal Code of Ghana, as well as the 1992 Constitution, specifically Article 88. The prosecutorial powers for such criminal offenses are vested in the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who is a principal legal advisor to the President and his government. And so no individual can go to court to prosecute any corrupt official or any government official who has committed a crime. At best, you can petition investigative bodies, and we have done so. We've petitioned SHRAJ, we've petitioned the Auditor General, in different corruption cases. But the bottom line is that some of these agencies and their leaders who have taken an uncompromising stance against corruption and are investigating acts of corruption, trying to stamp out this canker, are being fought, being hounded by President Akufo-Addo. That is why today Mr. Dumelovo has been compelled to proceed on leave. That is why institutions which are serious about the corruption fight are being politicized and bastardized, like President Mahama indicated over the weekend. And like he indicated, the next NDC Mahama government will ensure that we restore the dignity and independence of such state actors and state institutions and give them all the support they need to fight corruption of all forms, no matter whose ox is God. And so that is what we will do when, by the grace of God, we are sworn into office on the 7th of January 2021. But in opposition, that is not to say that in opposition we don't have any responsibility at all in the fight against corruption. We have a responsibility in the fight against corruption. And that is why we are embarking on this Corruption Tracker series. Ours is to keep government on its toes. Ours is to ensure that Ghanaians are being served with responsible leadership. Ours is to ensure that the public purse is being protected. And by engaging you at these press briefings and igniting national, conversations around these issues, what we are doing is that we are shedding light on wrongdoing. We are shedding light on acts of thievery and corruption, some of which President Akufo-Addo will wish that you and I forget because he has covered them up. We are shedding light on these things, putting the spotlight on government so that government will act. And so that those who are thinking of engaging in similar corrupt acts will be minded by the fact that the opposition is watching and the media who are the fourth estate of the realm are watching. That is what we can do now in opposition. Advocacy, petitioning constitutional and other investigative bodies to investigate such acts and exposing these corrupt acts through the Ghanaian people so that they can make an informed choice come 7 December 2020. So I think I've also answered the question by the class media reporter who asked whether the NDC can do anything whilst we are in opposition. Yes, we can do something, and we are doing that. That is the reason for this press conference. Finally, our brother asked that President Mahama, a brother from JoyNews, I think, asked that President Mahama has said that officials and appointees of the current government who are involved in the numerous corruption scandals we have cited will not be prosecuted. I'm not sure President Mahama said that.
But he said that he's going to do away with it.
Yeah, so what we are talking about is not political vindictiveness. Political vindictiveness is when a government in power uses power to hound innocent people. Okay? That is when you use power to persecute people who have committed no wrongs against the state unjustly, like President Akufo-Addo is doing, destroying people's businesses, collapsing people's jobs, okay, and hounding people who have committed no crimes, when the real criminals are being pampered in his government. President Mahama can be trusted to build a united, peaceful, country where the rights of all persons, including MPP people, will be respected. But that is not to say that if people have committed crimes against the state, people have stolen monies, like this PDS scandal we are speaking today, okay? A fraudulent company presents a fraudulent insurance guarantee, takes over the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG, operates it for a period of about 7 months, collects over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis from you and I, and all electricity consumers in the process. Till date, they have not been made to account for that. And those who perpetrated that fraud are still walking free. Those who were responsible for that criminal negligence, those who failed to perform their fiduciary responsibility to the state by ensuring that the necessary due diligence were conducted on the said insurance guarantee, like Dr. Bawumia, the finance minister and all that, are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men. Okay, and the directors of PDS, like the Baba, Philip Ayensu, okay, Akufo-Addo's friend, and an appointee of President Akufo-Addo who sits comfortably on the NCA board. They are today enjoying the loot. They are enjoying all the monies they collected from you and I. And so posterity and Ghanaians will not forgive President Mahama and the future NDC government if we allow these people to go free. They must account for the monies they have stolen. Where necessary, refunds will have to be made into the state coffers. And more importantly, prosecutions will have to take place to serve as a deterrent to all. And like I said, this is not a standard President Mahama will apply to only the MPP. He has demonstrated in the past that he has the commitment and the willingness and the ability to punish his own appointees who engage in similar corruption scandals. The JIDA scandal I cited, and the NSS scandal, and the several other corruption scandals I'm sure you are aware of, bears this fact out. And so it is not going to be like, it's going to be a double-edged sword. It's not going to be like, like what President Akufo-Addo is doing. See no evil, hear no evil once it involves your government appointees. Be a clearing agent, whitewashing your corrupt appointees all the time, defending them even when they have stolen from the state. President Mahama is not going to shield any corrupt official in his government, but he will ensure that the laws of this country are allowed to work, that those who engage in corruption are punished to serve as a deterrent to corrupt government officials who, have been milking the state coffers dry since God knows when. That is the only way, ladies and gentlemen, we can win the fight against corruption. It is by punishing corruption. That is what President Mahama will do. Okay, so thank you very much for your questions. At this stage, I will do a brief summary in the P language. Yemi anomon semtro for anope yeshia ewa ha. Mebo ni tew na enen komo a yede atomo animi mabo ne tofa. Ene ye frame a ye jumedi a yato ne din corruption tracker series ne fa etoso mienu ena ene anope yede bremo. Se mo be kaya on the 8th of June yenemo ye nhyiamu ena na ye corruption tracker no ye dikan a ye kan kata hyehye no dream asem kese bi esi o my Ghana mu in the year 2017 ho asem the Gov't corruption scandal. O man penya Akufo-Addo ne na aban eton Ghana japade 5 million liters of contaminated fuel. And the man on licensed businesses be moving peanut energy in soup oil. Or Moody Titia, Ghana, a public procurement law, so the MPA law, so not be seen there. A Hunsika crown, or Muntian to a mine futu, send a bear, Yibenya Sika, and the aye in Puntunuma, Namagana Funina, and Yaso, and Faso. Yet the air position, Yasadi and said, dear Uncle Ye, dear how mine, or dear dear Maninia. One or obo abino chrono, ye won't want dance here. Brano, Yenimubishia. Ye be abeto abonten na no aboa me yetu sa katahyehyɛ ne proye ne nyinaa asɛm nti even though say yenim sɛ katahyehyɛ ne proye a ɛkɔ no mampanya Kufuado nsa ne ti ne nan ne baabi a hyɛ mu bi no ye de ba abonten sɛ ye behwɛ whether for the first time at least obetu sa Bosgate corruption scandal no ho anamon bia but te said the money and money, the Bissine, on 2 1 amobia. Into or more tons are found one. Abraham follow public procurement law. Or more follow MPA Act. No more told them on licensed businesses. Not be seen or my family.